Good evening, everyone. We'll just wait for another 5 minutes and start the webinar. Hello, ma'am. Sujata, ma'am. Shall we start the webinar?
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Good evening, everyone. Can I continue?
Yes, ma'am, you can.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. So, we all know that we are here today to discuss about inclusive education. I think some of them might be familiar. So, but still, since the topic is inclusive education, I would like to start with the introduction of inclusive education. So, what is basically an inclusive education, which many of us in India, we are not aware of it. So inclusive education, it is defined as a system of learning which includes everyone, and on that, based on like their caste, creed, or disability, or a normal child, without differentiating anything, each and every child's catering should be met with the within the schools. So when we talk about inclusive education, it is that one can cater to the learning needs of the disabled children as well in the normal school, what we say. So as per our RTE Act Section 3, it says about the elementary education of the children with the disability as well within the other school system as well. So also now, like we all, I think in the earlier topic, we had discussed about the national education policy had come up. So with this new education policy, NEP 2020, India enters into an era of inclusive education. So wherein the children with a disability will not be denied the school admission under any circumstances. So as a parents or as an activist and people like us who work for these children, it is our responsibility to educate the parents to understand what is the rights of the children. So when we talk about this NEP is leading to all the disabled children to into the best of schools. Under no circumstances, the answer no cannot be given from any institution for the admissions. So this is indeed a great and a big step, I would like to say, wherein empowering the disabled community in a large will be successful if it is implemented properly. But again, like it is another question, are we ready for this? I mean, when I say are we ready, first and foremost, as a society, are we ready to welcome this step which is taken by the national education policy? Because acceptance and making policy is easy, as always I say that. But when it comes to the implementation, that is the where each and everyone face the biggest challenges. So as a parent, we ourselves, when you question, how many of us are ready to send our children into the school where a child is coming on the wheelchair or where a child is coming with an ear aid? So as a society, our mindset has to be changed. So we need to welcome these children. We need to encourage, we need to make our children understand that they are one among you, but with some problem within them, which can be rectified, or which you need to help as a friend. So these kind of talks among our children and changing our mindset is very important, because like who is having a hearing problem or a child with coming on the wheelchair, as I said, a child might come with an ADHD who may not be sitting in one place, who is very hyper in the classroom. So as a parent, like, are you ready to take these kind of things when your child is sitting along with those children? So that is the biggest question arises here when the national education policy has made this as a act. Then this mindset or the stigma has to be completely ruled out for the betterment of not only these disabled children, it is also for the betterment of our society and the next generation coming up. So these children, they do not need any sympathy. Oh, he's sitting on the wheelchair. Oh, she cannot hear properly. Oh, this child is having a learning disabled problem. So it is not the sympathy what is required. It is the empathy. As a parent or as a student learning along with those children, you need to understand what problem he or she is coming up with. So the ability to step into the person's shoes, to comprehend the daily challenges or the pain what they are undergoing is very, very, very important. So like as I told you, the National Education Policy, it also comes under the Right to Person with Disability Act 2016, that is RPW Act, that is which covers various disabilities. I mean, under this act, that is RPW Act, 21 disabilities have been covered in this. So when we just say disability, it is not that the person is not able to hear or the person is not able to sit in the class. I mean, various problems are there when you talk about the disabled. So a child may not be able to comprehend the numbers, a mathematical problem what a child teacher is teaching. Another child might a problem to read. Another child might have a problem to write. So when we talk about disability, there are 21 disabilities. How many schools are aware of this? How many parents are aware of this? So it is very, very important to educate, and it is high time to make the institutions understand what the actual law says and what are the rights of the children. So that they will cooperate with the parents, they will come forward and help the parents. And mainly educating parents is very important now, because when they go to the children, now as we are aware, the government, as per the RTE Act, it has ruled out the LKG admissions. But can any one of you, as just a parent, go into any schools, say that for your daughter or your grandchild or your cousin son or daughter, whoever it is, and try to get the admission without an interview? Is it possible? No. That's why I keep saying that here they make the policies and implementation is very difficult. When is the implementation difficult? When people like us who are educated are keeping our mouth shut. So this is the reason I tell, when you have a platform, when you have a chance for people to make understand and give awareness that what is their rights. So like each and every parent, whether it is a disabled child or a normal child, they would love their children to be playing with, like all other children will be playing. They want their children go to the normal schools and get the education. Yes, there are certain cases wherein we might think that, okay, if this is difficult for this child, and if the parent themselves opt or choose to put them into some other school for an extra attention, it's absolutely fine. But as per the special education, special need children rights, every school should have a special needs teacher. Every school should have a separate room for them. And these children have to go separate in that classroom. And like all other children, what they do, the same curriculum or a different model will be prepared for them. But every day they will be allowed to have a playtime with the normal children. They will be allowed to have a lunch with the normal children, and 1 or 2 periods they will be attending with the normal children. But how many schools in India is following this system, which is there from long time? This is not in the national education policy. Even much earlier, it was there in our RTE rights and the constitution, but it's not been followed anywhere. So Indian, if you take, I mean, these are the children, like I think you might have come across many disabled children have done excellent in different fields. It might be music, it might be dance, it might be art. We see various videos coming up on the WhatsApp where a person, they don't have the leg or he's not having a hand, but he will be doing some art, holding his pencil in a mouth. And recently I saw one video where that person is not having both the arms, but he is keeping his broom, a long one with a long stick. With the help of the shoulder, he is sweeping the floor. I mean, like, it's as we have got all our organs properly and we do our job, God has given them a gift wherein to use whatever they have, which needs to be recognized and encouraged and motivated, which has not been happening here. So children with these kind of things, disabilities, have been demonstrated their capacities in a various fields. So you can take an example of our Indian Paralympics. We have seen so many of them getting a different medals in a various fields, which is the best example. So catering the career path for these children with the disability is another task which definitely need to be looked into, where vocational courses can be included in the school itself to understand what the child, he or she, is capable of, or they are interested in, or what is their strong or weakness in their abilities. So based on that, they can be trained during the school itself. So which will help to lead into the various jobs when they walk out. So we have, as a society, have we seen any disabled person in any of the big companies sitting in a big position? No. Why? Why? They'll be not allowed for the interview itself. As soon as they get to know any of the companies that they are disabled, it's ruled out. They won't go to the next step. So all these kind of problem they are facing because lack of knowledge. lack of information. So these information and knowledge has to be given to the parents and to the institutions. That is the first step wherein we as citizens, we can do, and then which is a great a step taken by the government in the national education policy, where it has been emphasized about the inclusive education again. So we are seeing people talking everywhere regarding the national education policy and implementing them. I think many states have already implemented that. But how is this implementation happening? Is it like to convenient whatever is required for your institution, you are picking from that, or you are following everything what has been given in the policy? So this again has to be questioned from each and every parent who or she, I mean, the children are studying in those institutions. As a parent, we have rights to question the institution. So and so thing has not happened. This has been emphasized and it is come in the national education policy. Write to your institution heads and request them to implement it. When the government has implemented 6 months or 1 year back itself, but how many schools are following this? And as I mentioned, like following also, what are they following? Are they following everything what is mentioned in the national education policy? Because the policy also says about like the early education for the children. So that early education up to the 8 years, the entirely different curriculum has to be followed, which again, many of the schools, I don't think so they are following this. So these kind of small changes which needs to be done within the institutions. So when we talk about the inclusive education also, here three people are responsible to make it successful. First, the government. When the government is making a law or an act which has to be implemented or followed by the every institution, so who is that watching them, whether it has been implemented or not? It is a responsibility of the government to given in charge to the respective BO officers or the respective education department in the state wise, and see that every school will implement and follow strictly. Second one, it is the institutions. They need to understand their responsibility as a responsible citizen sitting in as an head of the institution. What is their responsibility? What is their takeaway? What is that their institution is giving to the society? Are they setting a role model example to the other institution by implementing and accepting these kind of policies made by the government? Third one, it will be the parents. When you know what the government has given to you and how to use it, so you have to stand for your children. So it is all the three people are equally responsible for any acts to be implemented and to be followed. So as I mentioned earlier, giving the importance for the career pathway, encouraging these for their entrepreneurship can be a game changer if it is addressed in a right way, and encouraging them by the government and the private sectors holistically. So practically, it is very important, and looking forward to for these changes which has to be done and needed to create a new society where these children with the special needs are lovingly and caringly allowed to grow and adjust like any other children in the society. So anything you would like to know, I'm here to help you. So please ask your queries. Yes, I mean, it's a very good question. Ananthi is asking, are the schools equipped with the requirement by the special needs? Yes, toilet, the ramps for the children who are on the wheelchair, and they need a special equipments when it comes to the playground, and they need a special need teacher, which I mentioned. Definitely not. Definitely schools are not ready for this. I have visited many schools. I myself, I have seen where one or very few schools are having the special need teachers within them. And also they do not consider these kind of children at all. They scrutiny them in the admission time itself. So where are we talking about the, I mean, the needs and requirements to be fulfilled by setting up the school as per their need? Definitely, I don't think so. We have seen many schools having these kind of facilities. Let it be an international school, let it be a state board, or the CBSE, ICSE, you name any boards what we have. But you do not see these kind of facilities, what has been provided, what has to be provided. Because the toilet should be lower to their problem. So a normal teacher who teaches, who has been educated by doing their NST or with their what is that B.Ed, these parents will be not able to identify the problem. Most of the time what they like, okay, my son is a slow learner. He started speaking only when he was at the age of 6 years or 7 years. So, I mean, as a parent, they see their children problem, not as a special ed or not as a psychologist, what can be done. If you tell parents that you get your test done for your child, a psychology test, so that's again a stigma for the parents. So these are the things which special ed teachers identify at the early stage, and it can be a great help to make the parent understand, counsel them. Very good question by Khan. Yes, this also I have seen, where the children will not be allowed to enter into the extracurricular activities, let it be the school programs or the school day, whatsoever it is, and including their school trips. So they will be denied from this. And I myself, I have seen one of the school, and when I questioned them, why is that this child cannot participate in the whatever the program was, upcoming program. Then they said, no ma'am, he will be not able to stand for a long time, and he won't understand what we are telling. I said, that's absolutely fine, give him some role where he will stand in one corner of the that drama or play, whatever is happening there. So let the child cherish that moment and understand. Then they said, no, like all other parents will be watching the program, so it will disturb the other children. Then I told, before giving a chance, before trying it, you are giving it up. Okay. So I don't want to name the child and the school here, and they gave an opportunity when I requested, and they just gave him one, what is this, Alauddin, this thing, no, that magic thing, what they make. So he was just holding that and standing in the program. And he was so fascinated with the lights and everything which is there on the stage. And he was whole time looking up the ceiling, and watching all those laser lights and all, no? So after all the program, like, I mean, you should have seen the joy and that happiness on the parents' face. So, and after the program, I told the teachers and coordinators, thanking them for giving the opportunity. And I said, like, I hope you watched the joy and happiness, what the parents were enjoying looking their son on the stage. I said, this is what is required. He did not do anything. He did not harm anyone, nor he troubled anyone. He was just standing, holding there and enjoying the lights and music and all those movements happening there. So definitely, I mean, these are the things which will be, again, they are deprived. And I have seen parents fighting for their children's rights to go to the school trip, asking them, if you are not happy or if you are concerned that it is a responsibility to take our children, we will join the trip. I think they can give an opportunity for the parent to take care of their own child. Only thing is, like, the safety, yes, parents are looking after, but that boy or girl will enjoy the trip with the other children. Yes, I think Mrs. Gauri wants to ask something. You have to unmute.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, so disabilities, you said 21 disabilities, that includes multiple things like, developmental, physical, emotional, behavioral, and sensory impaired. So for the institution to bring in special educators who are capable of handling these kind of challenges, so how do we do that? Like, different areas are what exactly is how exactly is this done?
As I mentioned earlier, Gauri, like every school, for that matter, they need to have their own special ed rooms. So when we say special education, like when the special ed teachers is there, they will be knowing what exactly is required to he or she. So those equipments can be provided in that room to help the children. And it's absolutely like, it's not a big a task which that they cannot handle. As I mentioned, that there are very rare cases where you feel that he or she may not fit into this school, and which you can make the parent understand and then put them into the special needs school, only if it is required and agreed and accepted by the parents. So forcibly, they cannot be removed from the school at all. So if the parent understands that, yes, my son is undergoing a lot of stress or pressure, or like he's not able to cope up at all in the normal school, only those in worst scenarios you will be putting them into the special need. Otherwise, every child, for that matter, every institutions should set up a different room for them, and their needs has to be catered. And this is mentioned in the policy, I mean, new education policy as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Coming to the grading, I think someone is asking a question that how to grade these children. See, every school as a counselor and especially teachers, whoever is working there, they will be knowing he or she what the problems they are coming up with. As we mentioned, 21 disabilities. So they have various problems. So one might not be good in a Hindi or a Kannada language. They might face the language issues. So when these things has observed in the lower classes itself, and they have helped, and when the time comes when they have to write the board exam, they can get the exemptions easily. So the school has to write, along with the psychological report provided by the psychologist and the special ed teacher's recommendation letter, which mentions that he or she, what they have observed and what they have helped the child for all these years, that records will be maintained within the school. So that has to be provided and written to the board, whichever the board, whether it is CBSE, ICSE, they have to request for the exemptions. These are the things which I have been highlighting and telling again and again. How many of them are aware of this? Even the most of the institutions, they're not doing this, they're not following these things. And it's very important to educate the parents to question question the institution. What kind of exam, like if someone is not good in math, they get exemption for the maths examination. Someone is not good in the language, they get exemption for the language. Someone is not good with the spellings, they get exemptions with the spellings. Based on that, their paper will be corrected entirely by a different this one. It will be not going with the all other normal children. When the exemption has been requested when they are in the grade 9, then their paper will also be sent separately. So based on that only the valuation will be done.
And one interesting point you brought up, like, would any person be willing to send her child when other kids with challenges are there in the classroom? So those kind of parents also would need orientation, right, towards.
Exactly. So when they enter LKG itself, it's not that in the higher classes, when they enter in LKG, every school has to do orientation to the parent to prepare their children entering into the school. What are the circumstances they are coming in and what type of children their children will be mingled or playing. So all these things should be educated and made a parent understand. Say, as I mentioned earlier itself, like we should put ourselves into their shoes. And that is what is very much required here now in our society. So make the parents understand. Definitely, I think let them come from any topmost families or what kind of background it is, whatever it is, when they enter into the institution, your child is one among the others. This attitude should be there within the institution to educate the parents. So which is definitely required when they enter into the school itself, so that they are also prepared. So as I mentioned earlier, when I started this topic, many of them, they do not know what is inclusive education. They'll definitely come and question the management. Why is this type of children are there in my son's class? So it's not that you will answer them after 5 years. You make them understand when they enter the institution.
Yeah, the earlier the parents know, the earlier the children settle faster, and the inclusiveness really starts in early. Yeah, I understand.
Exactly. Anyone else?
One more question that was asked before.
Yeah, I'm trying to read if I missed anything. Extracurricular activities, sports, I think I did mention.
Pointers for being more inclusive in the classroom, Deepta has asked.
Can you share a few pointers for being more inclusive in the classroom? See, as I mentioned earlier, like definitely children who come with a different background and different disability problem, yes, they do face challenges when they're sitting in the bigger number, might be of 30, 50 children. So how do we make those children adjust to that environment, and how do we make them sit for a longer period is the biggest question. As mentioned, if a child is an hyperactive, he or she may not be not interested with what teacher is teaching, but that doesn't mean that you exclude that child, giving the reason that, oh, he won't sit in the classroom and other children will distract. You make the other children understand he is special, he wants to do something on his own, you just leave him. You watch and listen to what the teacher is doing. And these kind of things, maybe like he's sitting for 10-15 minutes, Give him some activity book. He might be busy in coloring or something. He might get up from there and go to the board and try and write what ma'am is writing. I mean, there are various challenges which as a teacher they will face. And definitely all these teachers will not be trained well to handle these children, or they will be not trained to teach these children. That is the reason I mentioned about the special ed teachers in every school. But engaging them in the classroom with with the other children is to make them slowly adjust to those environment. So it is like they also need to understand, okay, this is a classroom. I have to be with these people. Ma'am is teaching something. If he gets up in between, that's absolutely fine. Our intention is not to make academically strong. Our intention is make to that child try to understand and try to be normal like others. We may not be successful in 100%, but we can make our effort to make it up to 50% from as a institution, as a teachers. What about the trained special teachers? Do we have enough of them? I think recently I have been seeing many of them taking this as a career, which is a very good thought and the news, because see, working with these kind of children, it's not an easy task, which I myself have witnessed. The teacher will be teaching, the boy will run out of the classroom. Okay, so it's not easy, we know that, but at the same time, is there anything impossible in this world? Where there is a will, there is a way. So if we have to do something, or if we have that goal that we can do, definitely we can do. And many youngsters, girls coming up and taking this job is really appreciable and welcoming. And because see, nowadays it's not only about handling these children, it's a good paid job as well. You get into these kind of this thing and go to some international school, you are paid very well. So your work, hard work is valued as well there. So definitely, I mean, these kind of teachers who get into this special ed coaching teachers, no, somewhere it is not the question of earning money. Serving society minded people will take up this job. Yes, there is a policy which school needs to have a special trainers, because which that act which I mentioned to you, RTE Act Section 3, and also RTE Act which 2016, which talks about the disability, this one, Right to Person with Disability Act 2016, which covers 21 disabilities. Definitely, it will also say that every school should have a special ed trainers, every school should have a special ed rooms. Mentally challenged children can be included in the inclusive education. When we talk about disability, mentally challenged will not come under that. Exercise, sleep, diet makes a difference in ADHD. Yes, definitely. I have come across a lot of motivational talks. Rather than exercise, sleep, no, lot of motivational talks help these children, because I have counseled one child, that child's mother was planning to remove him from the normal school because of he was facing a lot of humiliation with the other children. And I did counseling that child for about 6 months. And he completed his 10th and graduated out from the school now, this academic year. And so she sent me one a thanking message for motivating herself and the son. So ADHD children, yes, they are hyper, but as the treatment is given, therapies are done at the right age, definitely it can be brought under a little bit control, not if not completely. They might become milder as they grow older, but effort from parents and the trainer at the same time is equally required. Lot of patience from the trainers. Middle level school, what about special children for What is that PPR families? Can anyone let me know
Poor.
what
Is it poor?
is it poor? Is it poor? Kairali has written. I think she might, she's asking what if the child is coming from the poor family, I think. So, yes, our government is responsible for that. Making the policies is very easy, which I mentioned in the beginning itself. Implementation, how far it is done. We parents like us who are educated question the institutions which are bigger, but who is going to question the institutions which are run by the government? Have they implemented these things, having the ramps or the toilet facilities which has to be according to the disabled children? So I think Shaikh is writing that he has studied with a disabled child and then she has completed her MBA and she was proud of what she has done. I think she might be having a friend like Shaikh as well, who is happy today for her. So that's the reason she has completed her MBA. That is what is required now. So it's not that your sympathy to the child, it is empathy, what is required.
From your experience, what has been the most challenging? Like you said, implementation is the responsibility of the government, the institution, and the parents. But from your experience, what has been the most challenging bringing change in which part of this?
Institutions. Definitely institutions. See, policies will be made by the government. Who is that who has to follow that first? Parents, they are not aware that what the policy is. Parents, now the national education policy which came up, the policy came, but we see a lot of advertisements going on TV for something else, not about what has to be given actually. Why can't they give? The government also could have been initiated about the national education policy in a proper way, channelized and given to the public to understand what the policy says. So policy is talking so many things. We have picked up only one topic today, but under national policy, if you take up the new NEP and go through that, there are various things. And there is a language issue as well, which is going on, which we all are aware, where Kannada has been introduced as a compulsory language in the state from the lower classes till the degree. And we saw Mangalore University, all the educators, they filed a PIL and they won the case as well. And the High Court has denied and told, High Court has accepted their PIL and ordered the state not to impose language as a compulsory. So that again is another policy which has to be implemented in the schools and followed. But we see most of the schools, they are still imposing Kannada as a second language and compulsory language where the children have to write the board exam. So which is against the constitutional rights of the child. So the biggest challenge or the biggest thing is institutions.
This is definitely, I think one of the things that, I think that's another question, maybe you can answer that.
Yes, definitely. See, when we talk about the slow learners, there are many slow learners, and I recently got one call 2 days back where the child cannot hear properly, and the school want to detain the child in the same class. I said, when the child can easily get an exemption, why do they want her to be detained? Detaining the child is again a humiliation to the child sitting in that same class with a different friends.
So this is a case that I had recently happened. So we had a child who had again learning disability, and we got then also evaluated. But the organization which did the evaluation recommended not to inform the school about the challenges that the child is having, thinking then they will treat the child differently. So I personally think that is not the right thing to do. But an organization who is capable and knowledgeable about these areas is suggesting not to inform, then it puts us in a position to of confusion as to what is the right thing to do.
No, that's absolutely wrong, Ananti. What has been advised by the psychologist, see, their job is to identify what the problem is in the child. It is not that whether the child can get back to school or not, whether the child can get admission in the school or not. Nowhere they can mention in the letter, nor they can advise the parents in such a way, which is wrong. See, whenever you are taking the admission, definitely the school will also scrutinize the child. So they will get to know, and not many schools will have the special ed teachers, but whatever that small interaction they do with the child, if a child is having a major issue, they can make out on the first day itself. Someone asked the similar question, how do I identify the slow learners? Slow learners are different from the other disability what we are watching. When we talk about the hypertension or these things, no, those children, you can see them in the interview itself, you can make out. So if the teachers are well educated on these areas. So how to identify the slow learners? The school teachers have to be taught a basic things of identify the children. See, even at home, at what age the child will walk, what age the child will sit, what age the child will call mama. So we will know all these things. Similar way, the school also will have a set things. The child at this age, he or she should be able to read. At this age, he or she should be able to identify so and so things. So these kind of basic things which the schools will have, based on that, when they evaluate or when they do the assessments for the children, they will get to know that there is some problem with this child. They may not be able to identify what is the problem. That is the time they will be sent to the special ed teachers in the school. And those people, though they will be knowing or though they are able to identify, they cannot tag or name with anything. So they will direct the children to the psychological test, which has to be done. And any psychologist for that matter, they have to write what exactly the child is facing and give the letter, which has to be submitted to the schools. See, parent hiding this issue, like as you said, Ananti, or as like how she has advised the psychologist, that's not right. Why? I will tell you. So by doing this, you are denying your facts and hiding the child's problem. Whom will that help? In what way is it going to help? So as a parent, like when you are aware what is the problem, you will be taking the child to the therapy and you will get the treatment, whatever is done. At the same time, if the school is aware what the child is facing, they also will be able to help the child within the school during that school hours. Slow learners are not considered as children with special needs. They do not get any exemptions. No, they do get. And I have seen that. As I said, when you say slow learners, in the slow learners only, each child come up with a different problem. One might be facing a language issue. One might be facing with the numbers. The other one might be facing with the spelling. One might be facing with the reading. So when we say slow learners, definitely, yes, there are exemptions for them also. Anything else?
Hi, ma'am, Rajeshwari here. So in the chat, there is a question from Vasu. Can a 6-year-old child with mild atrophy get admission? Would you like to answer that? A 6-year-old child, yeah, with mild atrophy and delayed milestones get admission into inclusive school.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
that's the reason I told the new policy what has come up that does not differentiate anything. It does says inclusive education. That means any child for that matter up to the age of 14 years, a compulsory education should be given in like as all other children will get.
Okay, ma'am. Yeah. And if someone's not getting, like, how should they go about it? How do they approach?
RT, Right to Education Task Force, people like me waiting for those kind of cases to help them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you.
And you have a special education commissioner as well.
Okay.
They're really helpful. I don't know who is now, like the earlier person, I knew him very well. So you have a special ed commissioner who will definitely help in these kind of things.
Okay. So every state has one. Is that so?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
What type of therapies help such children, and how can we make this a normal topic for parents to not feel the need to hide? Yes, like what type of therapies will help? Definitely therapists will answer that based on the cases. So individual case will have a different therapies. So they will be able to decide what is required based on the problem what the child is facing. And also they ask, how can we make this normal topic for parents to not feel the need to hide? As mentioned earlier, educating the parents when they enter the premises in the lower classes itself is very, very, very important. So they can tell that, see, your children has entered into the school in the orientation itself. This is the learning process. This is the process where we identify the children and help the children to come out with various deficits and problems what they are facing. So these kind of things, no, like when it is done, they will understand, and it's easy, like you are making a platform. Initially in the orientation, you are making a platform where a gradually parent will step into that, and you will be able to balance and make the see, suddenly you put a bomb on them, your child is, that is he or she is having a problem, you need to go to psychologist. Definitely, I think even if it was myself, I will be not able to take that, because as a parent, I see my child is normal. So they come up with all these things that you are targeting my son, you don't like my son, that is why you are doing all these things. And these tough things will be there, and tough situation will arise. That is where the people like us who intervene in the schools to make the parents understand. If it comes from the institution or management, their straight away thing will be, which gets into their head, is that the institution is trying to remove my child. Institution is advising to put my child into the special needs schools. That is the reason they're asking me to do the psychology test. So intervention at that point, people like us who work for the children will be the better person to make the parents understand what is that happening and why it should be rectified and identified as early as possible. How is it going to benefit their child by identifying early? And what is the loss they're going to face if they hide these kind of things? There are many parents who would have done the test and not brought into the school notice.